The sound of polished leather on marble echoed through the chambered halls. A Queen's Guard, Color Sergeant Elliot Gray, 44, walked not with ceremony, but with purpose. He wasn't flanked by troops. There was no trumpet, no clicking of synchronized heels, just a single man in crimson and black, his posture razor straight, stepping into a space not designed for soldiers. Inside the Royal West Gallery, velvet ropes guided guests past oil masterpieces and war-era relics. The exhibit, Echoes of Empire, a collection of artwork curated to honor the fallen, display the victories, and, some whispered, atone for the past. Elliot paused just past the marble archway. His boots stopped at the junction of two centuries. One painted, the other lived. Before him, a towering oil painting titled "To Stand Alone" dominated the room. In the canvas, a lone Coldstream Guard in full uniform, standing at attention on a battlefield scarred by mud and smoke. The background was faint, almost ghost-like, like memory itself. But Elliot wasn't admiring the technique. He was watching someone, his grandfather. A soft voice behind him broke the stillness. "Excuse me, sir. Are you with security?" Elliot turned slightly, just enough to show he heard, but not enough to answer. The voice belonged to Margot Ellery, 52, the exhibit's chief curator. Elegant, sharp-jawed, and permanently tense. She approached with brisk steps. Margot, crisp. "We ask that impersonations remain outside of gallery premises. This isn't a parade route." Elliot didn't speak. He simply stood, facing the painting, arms at his sides, boots together. Margot, sighing. "Sir, if you don't remove yourself, I'll need to ask security to assist. You're disrupting the visitor flow." But visitors weren't disturbed. In fact, most watched quietly. A few had begun taking discreet photographs, not of the art, but of him. Margot, muttering, "Theatrics. Every year, someone tries to draw attention." Elliot slowly reached into his jacket pocket, not breaking stance, and withdrew a document. A folded piece of parchment bearing a gold crest. The royal household. Margot blinked. Margot, dryly. "And what is this meant to be?" Elliot, quietly. "Standing order. Issued 3 days ago. I was instructed to report to this gallery and stand post for the duration of today's remembrance." She frowned. Margot, "Remembrance?" Elliot, "My grandfather is in that painting. He was the man who stood alone during the retreat from Caen in 44. He held the line for 6 hours, long enough for his company to evacuate." Pause. "He didn't make it." The air shifted. But Margot, dutiful, territorial, was not convinced. Margot, "That may be your story, but art is for everyone, not for reenactments. And the Queen's Guard doesn't belong in a civilian space." Elliot, flat. "History isn't civilian, ma'am." She turned. Margot, over shoulder. "Then you'll be removed. Politely, if possible." 20 minutes later, 2 private security guards approached. Guard A, quiet. "We've been asked to escort you out, sir." Elliot, under what grounds? Guard B. Curator says your presence is unsanctioned. Claims it's distressing to guests. But the guests weren't distressed. They were watching. One woman had tears in her eyes. A young boy saluted him from behind a velvet rope. Elliot didn't resist. He removed his bearskin slowly, held it under one arm, folded the parchment and replaced it in his pocket. And he walked out, straight-backed, but slower, like the painting had become heavier than canvas. A tweet goes up, then a photo, then a video. Just saw a Queen's Guard get thrown out of a war remembrance exhibit while standing in front of his grandfather's portrait. What are we doing? A close-up image of Elliot Gray in full ceremonial uniform, standing before the painting titled "To Stand Alone," spreads like wildfire. Within hours, it's shared across platforms. A soldier honoring legacy, removed for disrupting a gallery? History doesn't belong in a museum. This man is the history. This isn't cosplay. This is memory in motion. Let him stand, trends across the UK. Margot Ellery releases a brief statement to the press. We strive to maintain a peaceful and undistracted viewing experience for all guests. Performance elements are not permitted unless pre-cleared. The backlash is instant. A tall, composed woman in a gray silk blouse steps into a quiet briefing room. Lady Evelyn Breyer, personal private secretary to Queen Camilla, holds a slim leather folder. She lays it on the table before the Director of Ceremonial Affairs. Lady Evelyn, the soldier's name is Color Sergeant Elliot Gray. 23 years in service. 8 with the Coldstream. His grandfather, William Gray, was awarded posthumously for action during Operation Windsor. She slides over a copy of the parchment Margot had dismissed. Lady Evelyn, the assignment was issued with full sanction by the Office of Military Heritage. His standing watch in that gallery was protocol. The director curses under his breath. Director, did the gallery not verify with us? Lady Evelyn, they didn't ask. They assumed. Director, and now it's on every major outlet. Lady Evelyn nods once. Lady Evelyn, Her Majesty would like to address this personally. The gallery is busier than usual. Velvet ropes have been repositioned. Signs now say, "Photography encouraged." Margot Ellery walks with a stiff smile, giving a press tour while avoiding questions about yesterday's incident. At precisely 10:03 a.m., the gallery doors open again. In walks Elliot Gray, full ceremonial uniform restored, posture unshaken. This time, he is flanked by 2 men from the royal household and 1 woman holding a clipboard. Silence floods the gallery. The crowd parts. Elliot stops before "To Stand Alone" again. He does not move. He does not speak. Margot steps forward, clearly alarmed. Margot, I wasn't informed of this. Who authorized? She stops, because behind them, in soft heels, enters Queen Camilla. The room freezes. Every phone drops. Every whisper dies. Queen Camilla, gently, He did. She gestures to Elliot. Queen Camilla, to the room. This man's grandfather held a position most of us will never understand. And today, his grandson stands in the same silence he once did. The gallery is lucky to host him. History doesn't sit behind glass. Sometimes it wears boots. The Queen nods once to Elliot. He does not break posture, but his eyes glisten. A royal press secretary steps up to the podium under grey London skies. Journalists gather in an orderly chaos, cameras aimed, notepads open. Press secretary. Her Majesty the Queen acknowledges the incident involving Colour Sergeant Elliot Gray, who was removed from a sanctioned ceremonial post inside the Royal West Gallery. He pauses. Press secretary. Colour Sergeant Gray was not acting independently. He stood in uniform, in silence, under direct royal commission. The role he played was not a performance. It was remembrance. A murmur rolls across the crowd. Press secretary. The Crown regrets the treatment he received and extends public gratitude to him and the memory of his grandfather, Lance Corporal William Gray, for their service. No questions are taken. The press secretary steps down. It's short, simple, unmistakably powerful. Margot Ellery sits across from two members of the Cultural Affairs Board. There's no rage, just cold precision. Official, you referred to the Guard's presence as disruptive performance, despite written proof to the contrary. Margot, defensive. I acted in the interest of civilian comfort. Uniforms can be polarizing. Official, what's polarizing is rewriting legacy in favor of aesthetics. Silence. Official. Effective immediately. You're being reassigned from public curatorial duty. Margot, low. He didn't even speak. Official, exactly. A new installation is unveiled. A bronze replica of To Stand Alone, placed beneath an engraved quote, Some stand for honor. Others so honor may keep standing. Crowds gather. At the center of the green, Elliot Gray in full uniform. Not on orders, not by request. He just came and stood in silence. Beside the statue of his grandfather, wearing the same uniform, the same boots, the same unspoken vow. A child approaches the rope line with his mother. Child whispering, Is that the same man from the painting? His mother nods. No, sweetheart. That's the man who remembered it. He removes the ceremonial belt with care, places the gloves in a small drawer, closes it slowly. On the wall above his desk hangs a framed black and white photo. His grandfather, in uniform, smiling under a battlefield sky. Beside it, a handwritten note. Sometimes silence teaches louder than speeches ever can. Her Majesty Queen Camilla. He turns off the light, and in the dark, he stands for a moment, not out of habit, but for them.